dominated the world have used money to rule it and have ruled it in their own interest. It looks at a world economic system that has no regard for the poor, that has no regard for the small nations, that has no regard for the poor of the small nations. And the policy is a dignified policy, is not a violent policy, is not a policy of guns. It's a very honorable policy, but it is a very clear policy. It is a policy that calls the poor of the world to stand together, to stand firm together, to struggle together, to struggle for change, to struggle for justice, to struggle through organization, to struggle through will, to struggle through determination, to struggle to build a new kind of world in which your children and mine will walk with more dignity, with better housing, with better opportunity, with better prices, with better response from the World Monetary System. That is the world to which I call you. That is the world for which I struggle, and no power will turn me back from that world. And comrades, if you go and walk with me, if you go and step with me, if you go and move with me, we're moving as warriors. We're moving in determination. We're moving to struggle. We're moving to change that world. No power will turn us back.
Me ever fresh, me no green.
Me coulda never green, dog. Me no chow chow. No. Ha 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 ho ho. Who ya know?
But if change is what we really want to see, ladies and gentlemen, then we must rise up. We must unite. We must advocate. We cannot remain silent. Where are the young men, the young women, the men, the women, the boys, the girls who will put aside political divide and do what is best for Jamaica? Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. Even our pledge, our national pledge, says before God and all mankind, we cannot see a better Jamaica unless we return to the foot of the cross. Jamaica under God must increase in beauty, fellowship and prosperity, and play our part.
If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
The perspective with Perry Cummings Jr. Big up yourself. The best is yet to come. This is my perspective. Telling you my perspective. This is my perspective to bring change that I feel me objective. Scandal after scandal. Look where Jamaica come to. Them a rob the money and a thief a lot too. Election tactics, what a disgrace. Them cut off ribbon and the place no safe. Mr. Prime Minister, are you me a address? Police a kill off the youth if you check. Talking about the way country are the best. But though this are my perspective, telling you my perspective. These are my perspective to bring change that I've been.
This are my perspective, ladies and gentlemen. A pleasant evening to you all. I'm your host, Perry Cummings Jr., and this is the perspective. So I'm just coming from the barber, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just coming from the barber, right? God is good. I've been having a very spirit-filled week. For all who know, I was in Montego Bay for 4 days ministering the undiluted word of God in the hills of St. James. It was just a blessing, and I count it all joy every time I am asked to minister the word of God. I am not a perfect being, but I am definitely sold out for Jesus. Somebody say amen. This is a pre-recording. I am not live right now, even though it is being streamed at my regular time, showtime. But I do have another engagement this evening at the University of Technology. I was asked to minister at a gospel concert. The young people have asked me to minister as well. You all know that I'm also a gospel recording artist. I have a career in music, so from time to time I will be at different events. Please pray for me. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy balancing political commentary and the work of God. But for me, I believe it is possible. And if I am the first one to strike a good balance between my political involvement and the work of God, then I am willing to set that trend. But I don't believe it is impossible. I can still do the work of God and do the work of the people. Right? So please pray for me. So yes, this is a pre-recording. Please to like up the live, ladies and gentlemen. Share it. We have a few things to touch on. I touched on the budget debates here and there. But I wanted to give a conclusive perspective on both presentations by the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister of Jamaica. I wanted to give a fulsome reaction to those budget presentations. Let me know where you're viewing from. I may not be seeing it right now, but I can tell you that I have persons from Silo, St. Elizabeth. I have persons from East Portland, Canada, UK. I know I have people from the Caribbean, Curacao. I know I have people from Clarendon viewing Spanish Town, St. Anne. Yeah, man, I know I have some people from St. James too. You go see them in the chat and line me. I tell ladies and gentlemen, big up to all of you who continues to support the perspective. Our subscribers are going up. Remember to share the platform with somebody. Yeah, man, let your other comrades who have not yet subscribed to this channel subscribe to this channel. And remember to like the videos, and feel free to watch over your favorite recordings or shows. All right, we don't have a lot of time because when you do pre-recording you can't go over 2 hours, right? So I can't spend a lot of time with the intro. I'm just gonna dive right into it so that we can have a good conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, there's quite a lot happening in our country. The first thing I'm going to touch on right now is just to re-emphasize or to reiterate how terrible the road infrastructure is in this country. You see, labor rights can talk. The Prime Minister can grandstand. The Jamaica Labour Party can continue to feed the filthy sandwiches to their cult-like following. They call themselves shower labor rights. But the realities are staring us in the face. And one of those realities is that Jamaica has a very poor infrastructure when it comes to our roads. And let me make it very clear. It is not Melissa that caused a lot of these roads to be in the very deplorable state that they are in now. Long before Hurricane Melissa, the Jamaica Labour Party deserted proper road infrastructure in this nation. So much so that even now, residents and motorists from St. Catherine, I was waiting for a protest to happen, because I'm from St. Catherine and I travel these roads often. And I can tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, St. Catherine have some of the most terrible roads in this country. I was waiting for a protest. Motorists and residents, they came out.
Taxi operators plying the Greater Portmore to Spanish Town route in St. Catherine staged a protest this morning, citing poor road conditions. They were joined by residents who demanded urgent intervention from the authorities. Yannick Williams has the details.
Traffic at a crawl along the Bernard Lodge Main Road. Similar scenes in nearby Lime Tree Grove and the Dunby Holding roads. And it's not because of peak hour traffic, but motorists are forced to maneuver on the pothole-riddled thoroughfare. It's been like this for some time now, but a taxi operator plying the Greater Portmore to Bernard Lodge route says the drivers were moved to act after a recent violent incident.
Just yesterday morning, in the line of traffic, 2 bike men ride up, took a taxi man, rob him. I don't know if any passenger get robbed as well, but the taxi man say him get robbed. By the time for rear can go to the station, we can't do nothing about it. Go to the station, police them can't because they were in their helmets and a mask up. So we have to make a stand.
It is why the taxi operators withdrew their service to bring attention to their plight.
And from the last election, the government promised that they would give us a good road, fix the road. And we see election has gone and nobody made no attempt to deal with the road. Now this road is costing us an arm and a leg in the deterioration of our vehicle.
Usually if the road is okay, how long would that take you to complete a trip and how long is it taking you now?
When 15 minutes go down, 15 minutes come up, now that take me 1 hour and a half to come up and go down.
They also have the support of other road users.
These are manholes, these are craters. And the sad reality is that the government doesn't, and people in power doesn't respond to what is supposed to be in terms of the processes. They respond to organized chaos, they respond to roadblock, and that is what the people have to do because that is what will get the highlight. And it is very sad that I am paying for fitness and this is the road condition that I'm expected to drive on.
The police were on hand to ensure the protesters maintained order. Head of the St. Catherine North Division, Senior Superintendent Hopton Nicholson was also there.
We are saying, we know the road is bad. I traverse here very often and it is very bad. It slows you down. I know you have to spend a lot of money to start the motor vehicle and to effect repairs on a regular basis. But what we are asking of you, not to block the main road.
When contacted, communications manager at the National Works Agency, Stephen Shaw, says while estimates have been done, a revision is currently underway with a view to effecting repairs soon. Yannick Williams, TVJ News.
The Trelawney Municipal Corporation has issued several notices and stop orders to some homeowners in the parish after several breaches were identified during an operation on Monday. Chairman Colin Gager has urged residents to follow the instructions given to prevent further action being taken by the corporation.
This is just one.
Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of those persons and taxi operators, they all chose Jamaica, you know. A lot of them voted for the Jamaica Labour Party. I'm pretty sure Spanish Town is a JLP place. But look at the state of our roads. Look at the state of our roads. So much so that a taxi operator was robbed because and you see, criminals, they understand that because the roads are so bad, you have to slow down to traverse these roads, putting you at risk, especially at nights. And the thieves, the robbers, the murderers, they lay away people. If you drive too fast across these roads, you mash up your whole of your car, your front end leak out. And you have to go waste money in these hard times. Remember, you know, the government is already putting pressure on the Jamaican people. Separate from the pressure that the Middle East is putting on the entire world. The government is going to be taking $18 billion out of our pockets, you know. Taxi operators, motor vehicle operators. The government is going to be applying more pressure on your pocket. And you have to turn around on a fixed front end every minute. You are dropping a pothole left, right, and center. You have to come to a complete stop in order to traverse these roads. But the Prime Minister is gallivanting in Parliament. The Prime Minister is grandstanding in Parliament. The Prime Minister is being disrespectful to the leaders of this country in Parliament. The Prime Minister come with him gimmicks and with him anti-bad mind cap in Parliament. The Prime Minister come for drink much water bottle in Parliament. Mr. Prime Minister, you need to drink from the fountain of life, because you've brought death and dishonor to the Jamaican people. You've brought a spiritual death upon this nation, an economic death upon this country, a death on our culture. You've brought disrepute to this nation. So while you are grandstanding and the Lord showed you all a sign, you know. Remember, say God showed us a sign, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, is it true that while the Prime Minister was giving his speech, light cut off? You know, Sister God has shown
So them are fire.
a sign.
You can't stand up like stooge. You can't go on like a fool. You have to fire back. Somebody load up and say pop, 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 pop. Lord God, badam, bam, bam, bam. Jesus Christ, what is what pop, 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 pop. Jesus Christ, war tonight, Bishop. Warfare tonight. Warfare. Badam, bam, bam, bam. Boom, boom.
You know, Sister God has shown us sign, Jamaica Labour Party, you've brought darkness upon this country. God have to lock off the light pound in a Parliament. That would have been my sign to go. That would have been my sign to get up and leave. Remember, you know, I've been praying a prayer, ladies and gentlemen, that God need to show a sign in Garden House. Who remember when I've been praying on this platform, asking God to show a sign in Garden House? Let there be a sign so that the people can understand that Jamaica is not in a good place. Yeah, man, light off a lock off in a Parliament while you talk. You know why, Mr. Prime Minister? Because the spirit of arrogance, the arrogance that is upon you, it has been shown time and time again in how you communicate to the opposition and to the people of this country. Nobody can talk to your administration. Nobody can talk to you. But the proud the Lord sees afar off. As somebody who tries to convince us every day that you are from humble beginnings, which might be true, as a matter of fact, you should be operating differently. Now that you're in government and you've been prime minister for some time, one would think that you would treat poor people with a certain level of respect, with a certain level of honor, with a certain level of class and decorum. You continue to be so condescending to the poorer class of this country. Sometimes I wonder if you were born rich. You weren't. And that is the reason why you should frame policy and make decisions that will benefit all citizens, not just your rich friends, not just nationwide, not just Mr. Cliff Hughes and other people.
Sakata, we are mash up, fire under the Holy Ghost. Every crisis, every condition, every operation of hell, fire, fire, Bishop. I got your back, fire, fire. Jesus.
But instead of looking out for the poor of this country, the Prime Minister gaslights the entire nation. While the Prime Minister is gaslighting the people of this country, there are increased concerns about literacy and numeracy in the region. Let me remind the people of this country that it is under the auspices of Prime Minister Holness we saw the embrace of the fully done culture.
Fully done.
It was under the Prime Minister's watch we saw the embrace of the scamming culture, the dunce culture, the skating on the toll road culture. It was under the Prime Minister we saw that. Remember when he just came, 2016, clocks wearing, till dancehall artists have to sing about him and say, government badness, Andrew Holness. It was under your watch. We saw the embrace of this fully dunce rhetoric that has caused many of our children to lose interest in school and to take up interest in scamming. That happened under your watch, Mr. Prime Minister. And oh, how that is so telling to the leadership that we have embracing this scamming culture. Well, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, they say.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. As the literacy and numeracy crisis among students deepen across the region, urgent appeals for Caribbean governments to collaborate to ensure better passes in mathematics and English. There are also calls for more investment in research and technology. Those recommendations were made at the recently concluded CXC Regional Education Conference.
Across the region, news headlines tell the tale. Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Antigua and Barbuda, Jamaica. The Caribbean has a big literacy and numeracy problem.
If strategically right across the region we all begin to pay attention to literacy and numeracy, our students will be better off for it.
At the recently concluded CXC Regional Conference, many teachers revealed that they're seeing students struggling to read and write at the high school level in their respective countries.
It's a really basic question that what is the link between reading and understanding and numeracy? And we're seeing such a big problem with that. And I think it starts at the foundational level. I think that we are missing something at the core levels. I'm talking early childhood, I'm talking primary level.
And I think that technology is playing a part in that. You know, we many moons ago had to read to entertain ourselves, and now entertainment is at the tip of their fingers. So we do have students that are coming in with different mathematical and literacy challenges.
and the statistics are stark. Only 39% of students in the Caribbean acquired a passing grade for mathematics in 2025. Cluster-based specialist in the Education Ministry, Kenroy Wilson, revealed that countries need to look beyond the students' physical capabilities and focus on what may be happening mentally and emotionally. In presenting the findings of his recent conceptual paper,
they do show that students with low motivation, they tend to perform not as well as other students. As far as it is concerning to Jamaica, further research is needed, but this lays the groundwork for figuring that out and getting the data. So normally in research, you move from a conceptual idea to an empirical study.
Also, CEO and Registrar of CXC, Dr. Wayne Wesley, also indicated that the regional body recently released the literacy and numeracy standards across the region and more interventions are in the pipeline. But more investment is needed.
We are looking at AI to drive a personalized program for students that are deficient in literacy and numeracy. We try not to the high school level. We try not to get in the preparation of students for examinations because you can't be an examining body, teaching and testing at the same time. But we see literacy and numeracy as foundational, and if we get that right, then more students will be ready to write our exit. The literacy and numeracy standards, that is out, but this IT software, the AI software, we're working with other partners. Hopefully they will take it on.
What the island has been trying to do is for our mathematics teachers at the secondary school to work with our primary teachers to tell them what are the gaps and how we can fill them, which is a little bit easier for us. It's 4 primary schools and 1 high school, so it's a little bit easier for us to collaborate.
Ladies and gentlemen, why is it that our children continue to embrace the dunce culture? Of course, there are a number of factors. I won't be disingenuous. I can easily blame for Jamaica. Let me speak for Jamaica because the news made it clear that this is across the entire Caribbean region. But let me speak for Jamaica. Let us reason. There are a number of factors. Of course, we can easily point out the failure of the Ministry of Education, right? I don't see the purpose of the minister there. The ministry has failed miserably, and Mr. Damian Crawford highlighted a lot of factors as to why he came to that conclusion that the ministry could have done better, but they continue to underperform. But there are also other factors that I'd like to highlight. I think parents too must play a part in how much interest their children show in reading, practicing math and things of that nature. I was brought up in a home where I was taught to read at a very early age, right? The only thing that I probably wished I spent more time on was the maths because I don't like the subject mathematics. But give me a book to read, give me an essay to write, give me anything that has to do with literature, language, and things of that nature. I can close my eyes and do it. But I was taught to read the Bible from a very early age. I started to read teenage literature when I was but a toddler. Mice and Men, The Great Gatsby, Shakespeare. I was reading all of those books from a very, very early age. So when it comes to literacy and numeracy, parents must also play a part in that development in their children or child. Especially when you have a failing government like the one that you're experiencing now under the leadership of Mr. Andrew Holness. You as parents better ensure that you take the tablet from the babies. Listen to me. I have seen firsthand how tablets can consume a toddler. And if you're not careful, they grow up being so attached to their devices. No reading, no maths practicing, nothing of that nature. Then when you look at the schools nowadays, a lot of these early childhood institutions, a lot of these schools, ladies and gentlemen, because you know that early childhood is the foundation. If you miss it at that level, you're going to have a difficult time getting it as you grow older. And the reality is that a lot of these so-called early childhood institutions, a lot of them, many of them private institutions, they take people's money and they too underperform. When your little one should be mastering this and mastering that, they are still missing out. But they suck thousands of dollars out of your pocket. But because of name and affiliations to high society people, the cost for their school fees is so high. So they tell you that, listen, the reason why you're paying so much is because you're getting the best. Your student is getting the best. But a lot of the times it's just the extracurricular activities that are there, that are available for your child to get involved in. That is the reason why the cost to go to these institutions are so high. It has nothing to do with the teaching quality. So there are a number of factors. Parents, the schools, the ministry overall, the government. But something is severely wrong. We cannot continue like this. Across the region, 30% across the region passing one subject, passing a particular subject, only 30%. So we need to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves the question, what it is that we're doing wrong. Do we need to revolutionize and do a reconstructing of the curriculums? Can we finally admit that the strategies that we have been implementing under the Ministry of Education across the region, they have not been yielding certain results? Seeing that we know that this generation of students is not like back in the day where parents could just take your phone and that is it. If you take a phone, them have tablet, them have this, them have all sorts of devices can go upon. It's not back in the days where students were socialized to take up a book. From you come from school, you take up your book. Seeing that we have accepted that the dunce culture brought to you by the Jamaica Labour Party is so ever before us and so ever present. Isn't it time for the Ministry of Education to go back to the drawing board and to see how best they can engage and encourage our students to not frown upon education but to embrace it? Too many of our children, too many of our young men, even our young women too, they are going into the scamming. They don't want to do anything school related. It's all about the quick money. It's all about the quick cash. But can we blame them when we have a government that embraces the same quick cash mentality?
Them on fire. And if the enemy are fire, you can't stand up like stooge. You can't go on like a fool. You have to fire back. Somebody load up and say, pop, 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 pop. Lord God, badam, bam, bam, bam. Jesus Christ, what is what? Pop, 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 pop.
Can we blame them, ladies and gentlemen, when we have a government that is so silent when it comes to corruption, theft, scandals, just such a very quiet administration? Don't you think that our young people are looking at and they recognize that nothing is changing? They recognize that these politicians are getting away with fraud. When you look at Ruel Reid being able to stall his hearing, because you must go to prison in a real read. Listen, it better you make man judge than God judge you, you know. It better you make man judge than God judge you, because God is not sleeping. The whole lot on one by one, you all
one by one, who go into jail. One by who go into one by.
It better you make man judge you than God judge you. But we cannot continue like this. Our young people are looking on, ladies and gentlemen, and they recognize that in our Jamaican culture, we have accepted fraud to be the order of the day. Skullduggery to be our companion. Lying, deception. These are some of the things that I can use to describe this current administration. So why are we even surprised that a lot of our children are embracing scamming and things of that nature? Because it is exactly what is happening in our government. And while these things are undeniable, ladies and gentlemen, while all of these things are undeniable, and the Prime Minister went to Parliament, failed to address these very serious concerns, because they themselves are compromised. They can't hit out against corruption. Them can't call out Minister Vaz and in procurement breaches. And the scandal with the rural bus. Remember, the Auditor General is to do a probing, you know, in the next few months, you know, as relates to the mismanagement of taxpayers' money. And the Prime Minister didn't even come out and take a stance against these things. While all of this is staring us in our faces, you have the puppets of the Jamaica Labour Party over the nationwide JLPFM, again spreading propaganda and lies.
I felt it for the opposition leader yesterday. I must admit that. I felt it for him. I winced when I saw the blows being rained on him by the Prime Minister. And all those punches were landing. The Prime Minister didn't win this one by a technical knockout. It was a clear knockout, not on the scorecard. The Prime Minister delivered some fatal blows to the opposition leader yesterday. I asked our panelists, our eminent panel yesterday, who do you think is the star performer of these debates so far? Because the only thing that is left
People's
is
National
for
Party
the finance
Media
minister to close the budget
I am
debate.
Professor Floyd Morris,
And of
position
course,
spokesperson
barring
on housing and
a supernova performance from the finance minister, down to a man, said the Prime Minister. All of the panelists we had on yesterday said the Prime Minister was the top performer in these debates. And that, I think, is impatient of debate. The Prime Minister gave a good showing of himself. He gave a history lesson in addressing the Cuba-Jamaica issue, set the history lesson in flow to say, look, these are the ideologies that were contending at the time. And he believes Jamaica dithering during the 70s with the People's National Party at the helm set Jamaica back, he said, perhaps by about 10 years. And then he said, look, regarding the Cuban medical health program, we do hope that Cuba will have a change of heart on this matter. The olive branch was still there. The Prime Minister did well, and he's definitely the star of these debates. And it's not just on form. The Prime Minister did well on substance. He delivered quite a bit for us to unpack, dissect, and to...
Mr. Tyrone Reid, you were the young man over nationwide that called my name, saying that I should not say that FinSac was a great thing for Jamaica. And here you are again spewing more nonsense, filth to my ears, talking about the Prime Minister landed blows and you felt sorry for the opposition. I feel sorry for you because you are one of those Labourites, Mr. Tyrone, that continues to eat the filthy sandwiches brought to you by the Jamaica Labour Party. Imagine this, Tyrone. The Jamaica Labour Party shows you that they are passing feces and they put the feces between two slices of bread. And they say, Tyrone, look at this. And they put the filthy sandwich in a microwave and they heat it up for 2 minutes. And they give it to you for lunch. You eat it and you belch. And when we tell you that, Tyrone, a doodle sandwich, you know what they tell us? That it's an hamburger. You should be ashamed of yourself.
And if the enemy are fire, you can't stand up like stooge. You can't go on like a fool. You have to fire back. Somebody load up and say, pop, 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 pop. Lord God. Aim. Sakata. We are mash up, fire under the Holy Ghost. Every crisis, every condition, every operation of hell. Fire, Bishop. I got your back, fire. Jesus Christ, watch the operation.
Filthy sandwiches you all continue to feast on. What was great about the budget presentation of the Prime Minister? I wonder if it's them talk to Mr. Reid, because the other day Mr. Reid came out, talking about what the Minister of Health said about it is time for us to move on is unacceptable. I wonder if it's them threatening your job, Mr. Tyrone. Is the same person
There's no way anyone who believes in transparency and believes in holding the government accountable should be saying that attempt by Dr. Christopherson, to say let's move on is acceptable. It's not acceptable. And I challenged the minister on it. And if he came back on the program and took a similar position, I'd challenge him again. Yeah, I know many of you might not like that, but that's the way it ought to be done.
It's like them pager, Tyrone, them pager, man. Them pager. Oh, you got out of line. You need to remember that, Nationwide is an affiliate of the Jamaica Labour Party. You are not free to have your independent thoughts over there, Mr. Tyrone. You're but a puppet on the string. Remember, if JLP don't, you can't eat nothing, and you probably never get the memo.
And if the enemy are fire, you can't stand up like stooge. You can't go on like a fool. You have to fire back. Somebody load up and say, pop, 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 pop.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for us to put aside the nonsense of JLP media outlets like Nationwide and their puppets like Mr. Tyrone here, because I have no respect for his journalism. As a matter of fact, if you're unable to speak freely on matters of the country from an unbiased view, you, my friend, is an enemy to the state in and of itself. You're a threat to our democracy. You are a threat to independent thought and critical thinking. But many of you've sold your souls to the Jamaica Labour Party. What does it profit a man, Mr. Reid, for him to gain the whole world and to lose his only soul? So, ladies and gentlemen, let us really look at everything that was wrong with the Prime Minister's budget presentation, because for me that was just theater, political gimmicks. That was pantomime. That was pantomime. I could even call it comedy bus, because comedy bus was actually funny. That was a disgrace coming from a prime minister. But what else can you expect? He's uncertified. Something that Nationwide will not continue to stress and ask for. They won't ask for the certification of the prime minister's statutory declarations. They're not asking the prime minister what is up, what is wrong. No, but they have to sing for their breakfast, lunch and dinner. The sad thing about it is that their breakfast, lunch and dinner is very smelly. But everything that is wrong with Andrew Holness's budget presentation, ladies and gentlemen, let us talk about it. Nationwide, listen up. People of the perspective, if you're just joining, this is a pre-recorded video, right? I have a number of engagements this evening, but I could never leave my viewers hanging. So please do enjoy this pre-recorded session, this pre-recorded show. Please do like, comment, share and subscribe. Share the platform with a friend as we are on the path to 10,000 subscribers. Let me tell you 10 things that I believe was very wrong with the Prime Minister's presentation. Holness announced an increase of only $1,000, moving the minimum wage from $16,000 to $17,000 per week. The government previously signaled $18,500 as the next step. So right there and then you recognize that I cannot trust this government. Their words mean absolutely nothing. And again, it is another empty promise. Inflation and cost of living increases have outpaced wage growth. So how could you increase minimum wage from 16 to 17 when the cost of living is so high? Things are so expensive, and you think that $1,000 was going to impact the purchasing power? Nationwide, this is how you give critique. I may have to do a session on credible journalism. I may have to teach Nationwide a thing or two. How can you increase by $1,000 and expect the people of this country to be satisfied with that? Mr. Prime Minister, remember that you are getting $28 million a year, you know. Remember that all the politicians, PNP and JLP, got increases. And you are coming to increase the minimum wage by $1,000. What can 1,000 Jamaican dollars buy these days? So and you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a critical thinker. I'm not a mathematician. So I reasoned out some things, and I said to myself, if the minimum wage goes from 16,000 Jamaican dollars to 17,000 Jamaican dollars on July 1st, that is when they announced it, the $1,000 to go up, right? Based on this, ladies and gentlemen, one could expect that it is possible that the government will continually increase the minimum wage, I guess, by $1,000 every year. Because if you increase it by $1,000, I guess that is the standard going forward. But remember, the Prime Minister last year, ladies and gentlemen, made a grand announcement that they will increase minimum wage to $32,000. No, sir. Me right or me right? So if the Prime Minister is to do an increase of $1,000 per year, the total to get to 32,000, the total increase needed would be $16,000. So if the increase each time is 1,000 Jamaican dollars, ladies and gentlemen, he would need to do 16 increases, which would equivalent to 16 years in total. Which means, ladies and gentlemen, For us to get to $32,000, which was promised by the Jamaican government, the Jamaica Labour Party last year, we would have to wait 16 years before we get to the grand promise that was made.
And if the enemy are fire, you can't stand up like stooge. You can't go on like a fool. You have to fire back. Somebody load up and say, pop, 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 pop.
We would have to wait 16 years. Because it's you set the standard, you know. You increase the minimum wage by $1,000. It is, I'm within my right to assume that that is your standard. After a crisis like Melissa, after homes were devastated, after livelihoods were lost, after lives were lost, farms destroyed, businesses plummeted, you come to Parliament and you want us to applaud $1,000 increase on the minimum wage when you made an announcement last year that you would increase it to $32,000. So I am within my right to assume that you will increase the minimum wage by $1,000 every time we get to budget presentations. And if we are to hold you to your word of $32,000, it is going to take us 16 years to reach that. You are a deceptive administration. You are all criminals. We're not going to sit around and wait for 16 years for us to get that 32,000. Pack your bags and go.
Uno go into jail. One by. Uno go into. One by.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a shame and a disgrace based on the standards set by the Jamaica Labour Party in the Prime Minister's budget presentation. The $32,000 increase on the minimum wage will not happen for the remainder of this term. Which means, ladies and gentlemen, that the Prime Minister of this country again has deceived the country. I'm not surprised, you know. A lot of the labor rights jump up and reel up and rave up when he announced the $32,000. He wasn't even able to commit to the $18,500. He wasn't even able to stand by that. And you want us, so what? So politicians must just get richer and richer and richer, while poor people in this country continue to live from hand to mouth. That's the first problem I have with the budget presentation. Nationwide, listen up and I'll stop beat to know. You see, because I can work hard for what I want in this life and nobody has to hand me anything. I can talk freely. But I'm going to teach you guys journalism and how you do an analysis of budget presentations. You are all a disgrace. Filthy sandwiches. That's what you all feed on. The government blamed external events instead of policy. Holness blamed Hurricane Melissa, global energy prices, shipping costs for the economic constraints. But the criticism is this, ladies and gentlemen, and hear my perspective this evening. A budget should show solutions, not excuses. Jamaicans want concrete measures to shield them from inflation and shocks. It is not good enough for you, Mr. Holness, to come to budget presentation after budget presentation. Every time you address the nation, you blame everybody else but yourself. When will you take accountability for your incompetence? What legislation, what piece of... I challenge nationwide. Because now I know you all watch me. Mr. Tyrone Reid, Mr. Cliff Hughes, and Mr. Davis, and whoever else is over there feasting on the filthy sandwiches. I challenge you Name me one piece of powerful legislation or policy that the Prime Minister of this country has implemented that will impact our children and our children's children for time to come, for decades to come, for years to come. Just like how Michael Manley, I don't want to come with no foolishness. Just as how you see Michael Manley with the housing trust, maternity leave with pay. Just like how the PMP roll out path, rather. The hype. Tell me some policies or some things that the Prime Minister, this administration, over the 10 going 11 years that they have been in power. Name me one piece of powerful legislation that the Prime Minister has implemented. I can tell you that Mr. Golding, right, legalized small amounts of marijuana. You remember that legislation, that powerful legislation? Remember that Mr. Golding has his hand in the Integrity Commission. He was a part of the brainstorming for that body, which was implemented to hold leaders accountable, to ensure transparency, accountability, and integrity. Something that this Prime Minister has tried to undermine and to weaken. I challenge you. What is it that you are all celebrating? The Prime Minister continues to point fingers, but no accountability, no solution. The third problem I had with the presentation: no clear plan to protect Jamaicans from rising prices. The opposition voices argued the combination of post-hurricane hardship, global oil prices, and government policies, and how all of this would impact the lives of everyday Jamaicans. And instead of coming to the parliament before Jamaicans, locally and abroad, the Prime Minister came and lacked this strong cost of living protection strategy. What are your plans to shield us from these realities? No doubt that the Middle East and the activities there will impact Jamaica. No doubt. Come on. No doubt that Melissa has impacted our economy. Nobody's fighting that. But what are your plans? What are your plans? It is certainly can't be to come to Parliament and show us a hat with the writing anti-bad mind. It can't be to come and grandstand and make very lame jokes. You think that you think that Jamaica is a playground for you politicians to go in Parliament and skin teeth every day? People are suffering. What are the plans? What are the solutions? The fourth problem I had with the presentation, remember going to the 10, the pay raise controversy damaged credibility. Holness initially rejected a salary increase, but later accepted the 28.6 million pay package. Here is the criticism. Opposition leader Mark Golding called it a shameful deception. This undermines the message of shared sacrifice during economic hardship. And hear what the Prime Minister came and said. Instead of trying to explain then as to why he accepted it, he came and said that everybody accepted the increase. Mr. Prime Minister, don't you think that you should be held to a higher standard? I don't think this man understands the role of a Prime Minister. If everybody else jump into the fire, you're going to jump in it too? So you're telling me that if everybody else in Parliament was robbing, killing and all of those things, you would just do it too, and then when people call you out for it, you say, well, everybody else doing it. You're a disgrace. You Labourites should be ashamed. That is exactly what the Prime Minister did in his budget presentation. Instead of coming to then, say to us then, even if you want to make up things, which is not beyond you, but even if you want to make up some Nancy's story, Justify your 28.6 million then. Show us what you have done to deserve that increase. But to come and say, well, everybody else took a pay increase. Everybody took a salary increase, so I'm going to take mine. You are out of touch with reality. You are the Prime Minister of this country. You know how beautiful it would have looked, ladies and gentlemen? The Prime Minister doesn't know politics. If the Prime Minister is trying to campaign for next year's local election or for the next general election, you need a strategist. And probably that's why the people believe that you all stole the election last year. Because you don't even know how to play politics. If you wanted to impress the country, to impress Jamaicans, you know what you could have done? You could have said, listen, ladies and gentlemen, Jamaicans all the other politicians on both sides took a salary increase. But as the Prime Minister of this country, knowing quite well the hardships that my fellow Jamaicans will have to experience given the aftershocks or the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, I will not take this salary increase, but instead use that increase to aid in relief efforts. Come out and play the politics then, and show us what you will do with the money. But instead of doing that, because all of you are so hungry belly politicians, uno corrupt, uno don't even know how to play politics, uno so corrupt, uno so tainted, you all are so mad. You couldn't help yourself but take it. And then when you take it and people call you out for it, you say other people do it. I can't trust you. Dare to be different, Mr. Prime Minister. Dare to be a Daniel. Dare to stand alone. Dare to have a purpose felt. And dare to make it known. You have no backbone, and that's why you bowed to the Trump administration. You end such a long-standing medical program between Jamaica and Cuba, and because of its collapse, Jamaicans are now in limbo, because the poor of this country can't afford to go to Andrew Memorial Hospital. They can't afford to go over Thai Wing and Tow Wing and that the wing there at the University Hospital. They can't afford to fly out to Miami and to other doctors overseas, like persons from your administration, Mr. Holness. It's a disgrace. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Education, the fifth thing. Education still not a top budget priority. Education stakeholders have argued that Jamaica spends more per capita on national security than education. But I'm not surprised. Remember, it's JLP says selfish over education, you know. That's what Buntamanti said. Them rather selfish all over education. So I'm not surprised that they're unwilling to invest in education. I'm not surprised. What are the long-term goals? Better teacher pay with that day. Stronger education investment with that day. The budget did not sufficiently address teacher retention and education reform. All of our teachers are going overseas. Jamaica has one of the highest brain drain rate. I think we're second in the world for that. Don't quote me, but I know we're up there. The budget was lacking that. You come and talking about FinSac. You come and talking about bad mind. The sixth thing, weak economic growth outlook. The fiscal outlook projects negative real GDP growth of about 0.5% for the coming fiscal year. Here is my criticism. Government is celebrating stability while the economy may actually contract. The budget lacked bold growth strategies. The Prime Minister has no plans for this country. 0.5% growth predicted or projected. And the Prime Minister came to the budget presentations and was unable to show us the path to growth and prosperity.
Microphone and usher him out. Take his microphone and usher him out. Take his microphone. Just a minute. Just a minute. Take his microphone. Usher him out. Take his microphone and usher him out. Take his microphone.
Usher him out. Gina Jennings, look at Las Vegas, embarrassing. Usher these labor rights out. No plan. Number 7, foreign policy justifications raised questions. Holness defended government decisions regarding the Cuban medical program and international obligations. Who are you obligated to, Mr. Prime Minister? Are you obligated to the United States of America? Or are you obligated to the people who you serve? You have no loyalty to the Jamaicans. What type of obligations? You must be obligated to the people that you serve. Not to no external powers, but because you have no spine. Jamaica will lose critical healthcare workers. And the presentation did not clearly explain how the healthcare gap will be filled. Now, Mr. Tyrone Reid, who called my name over nationwide, even you who eat the filthy sandwiches had a problem with what Mr. Tufton said regarding the Cuban medical program. They told us that we just have to move on. Just move on. Let it go. Even you had a problem with that. And the Prime Minister that you are boasted about did well in the budget presentation. Failed to show us how the healthcare gap will be filled. And that was a good presentation. Number 8, make me beat and teach. No major structural reforms announced. Critics say the budget contained incremental changes rather than structural transformation. The budget was missing bold reforms in areas like agriculture. The onion farmers are crying out. Where is the plan to support our local farmers? We continue to import more than how we export. We are an import-dependent economy and country. Where are the plans to empower our local farms, to empower our local economy, to ensure that we can stand on our own feet and tap back into our export? Where is that coming from the Prime Minister? Productivity is lacking. Well, the Prime Minister said here, ladies and gentlemen, that he wants public sector wages to be tied to productivity. Now let me ask though, is this government productive? Shouldn't politicians and prime ministers be tied to productivity? Shouldn't your wages be tied to your productivity? Or should you just get a fixed salary regardless of the poor work that you do as a public servant? You want public sector wages to be tied to productivity, but you all must sit down in parliament, do nothing, no advocacy on behalf of the people, no nothing. And your productivity shouldn't determine your salary. But you just get it. Because why? Why? What's the reason? What's the reason? Nothing on export diversification. Nothing on energy dependence. What are these people talking about? Number 9. The biggest issue for Jamaica, ladies and gentlemen, is food prices, electricity, transportation. The budget, though, lacked major relief measures such as fuel tax relief. We don't hear nothing about no tax relief from this government. I have said it before, the international standards, globally accepted, after a major disaster like a Melissa, any caring government would give tax relief, long-term tax relief that is reasonable until the country gets back on their feet. As them stop charge at the toll, them start charge back at the toll. Where is the fuel tax relief? Where are the targeted subsidies? Where is the major price controls, Mr. Prime Minister? A government actually has a say in how prices are determined in the government, in the country rather. Don't tell me that the country cannot give recommendation to business owners, to the private sector as to their prices. We've seen it before. So where is all of that? A large part of the speech, ladies and gentlemen, was spent attacking the opposition instead of outlining policy solutions. And it is true. Mark Golding does a live pound of mind. What am I going to know? You're obsessed with Mark Golding? Jamaica Labour Party. Every day you get up and talk about Mark Golding. Oh, I'm a British, and I'm a Braca Master, and I'm a this, and I'm a that, and all of that. Where are your solutions? You are the government. The election come and gone. Why are you still blaming the opposition? You have been at the wicket for 10 years plus. And you continue to point fingers at the opposition. Budget presentations. Filthy sandwich eaters, labor rights, should focus on economic strategy, development planning, not partisan rhetoric. You don't go to budget presentation as the Prime Minister to feed into the partisan narratives. You come to budget presentations to show us solutions. How are you going to bring Jamaica forward? What are your plans? What are your policies? For any solution that the Prime Minister showed in his budget presentation was mediocre. It's nothing to write home about. It's nothing to applaud. $1,000 on minimum wage from 16,000 to 17,000 when you promised 18,500, when you promised 32,000. Mediocre, poor. And I'm going to end on the Prime Minister's budget presentation by saying this to you, Mr. Prime Minister. After 11 budget speeches, Andrew Holness delivered more excuses, symbolism, and politics than real solutions for the Jamaican cost of living crisis. Every budget presentation, we've seen the same rhetoric, the same partisan language, excuses, blaming FinSAC, blaming whatever, blaming PNP. If all you can do is blame the People's National Party for your incompetence, it is better for you to step down. Because the People's National Party, we fixed the economy before. We fixed the economy before. So we have proven to the Jamaican people that we are able to do it. But all you do is blame PNP. Step aside. Step aside. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take a quick break and come back. This is The Perspective, my first and final break.
The Perspective with Perry Cummings Jr. Big up yourself. The best is yet to come. This is my perspective, telling you my perspective. This is my perspective to bring change that I feel me objective. Scandal after scandal, look where Jamaica come to. Them rob the money and a thief a lot too. Election tactics, what a disgrace. Them cut off ribbon and the place not safe. Mr. Prime Minister, are you me a address? Police a kill off the youth if you check. Talking about the way country are the best. But though this is my perspective, These are my perspective to bring change that I feel.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Perspective, and I'm your host, Perry Cummings Jr. This is a pre-recording, so if you're viewing, I have a few engagements later this evening, right? Ministry calls. So I did the right thing of preparing a pre-recording for you all. I hope that you do appreciate it. And please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Recommend this channel to somebody. Tell a friend to tell a friend, as we're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. Can you get Perry Cummings Jr. to 10,000 subscribers? Yeah, man, tell somebody about this lovely program. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we just discussed the budget presentation of the Prime Minister and how much of a failure it was. Let us look at how good Mr. Mark Golding's presentation was. Mr. Golding focused directly on the cost of living crisis, something that the government failed to do. Golding centered his presentation on the daily struggles of ordinary Jamaicans: food prices, transportation costs, electricity bills, housing affordability. Instead of macroeconomic celebration, he emphasized real household pressure. The government is out of touch. This resonated with the people of this country, ladies and gentlemen. Many Jamaicans feel economic growth numbers do not reflect their reality. It doesn't matter how much numbers you want to get up and spew out of your mouths. If the ordinary Jamaican citizen is not experiencing growth, there is no growth at all in my book. Growth can only come when the people feel it. You cannot choose Jamaica without choosing the people. I said those words months ago on a political stage representing the People's National Party, and that resonated with thousands of Jamaicans because it is true. How can you say Jamaica is going forward and we are growing and we are moving in a right direction when the people of this country are left on the back burner to suffer? Golding highlighted the gap between economic stability and people's reality. Golding acknowledged Jamaica's fiscal stability but argued stability means little if people cannot afford to live. So profound. This was a very strategic argument because it accepted the government's somewhat achievements that they love to take credit for, when it was the People's National Party that placed the economy on a path to growth that the Jamaica Labour Party, this administration, inherited. They love to take credit for it. Right? So even the economic stability, it is credited to the People's National Party. The JLP are just mere placeholders. They have no value. So while we acknowledge that there is somewhat of a stability credited to the PNP, the Jamaica Labour Party failed to improve on that stability. It is time for this government to move from just shouting across the mountaintops, oh, the economy is stable. How about improving it? What is your contribution to the economy, Jamaica Labour Party and Holness administration? What is your contributions to the stability? Golding attacked the government on pay raise. Golding criticized the government for accepting large salary increases while Jamaican struggles. And again, we understand that all the politicians accepted salary increases, but the difference is that Mr. Golding used his increase, I think about 80% of his salary increase, and he has been donating it to charity. Can the Prime Minister say the same? Can the Prime Minister say the same? Mr. Golding can't force anybody to refuse their salary increase. That is up to a man's morality. That is up to a man's moral compass. And I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, as I made the argument before the break, the Prime Minister, as Prime Minister, should have been different from others. We have to hold him to that standard because he holds an office that requires you to operate at that standard. If you are unable to be guided by morality, step down. If you cannot put service above self, step down. That is what a leader should show. Mr. Golden presented solutions. The digital nomad economic plan that Mr. Julian Robinson did very well in explaining last week. Right? The key idea is to turn Jamaica into a Caribbean hub for remote work and tech professionals. The potential benefits include foreign income, new businesses, stronger tourism spillover. And this is one of the few forward-looking economic strategies in the debate. It is the big talk of the town. What grand and an achievable idea, because it's not just being grand, it's not just being grand, but being practical, achievable. What practical, long-term economic proposal or strategy did the government propose in the budget presentation? Mr. Golden was strong in his position on healthcare workers. Golden defended the role of the Cuban medical professionals in Jamaica and warned about the consequences of losing them. He argued that if we are going to protect Jamaica's healthcare system, we shouldn't have ended such a program. How are you going to maintain doctors in the rural communities when it was the Cuban doctors who oftentimes took those job opportunities in the rural parts, giving quality medical help to those Jamaicans who couldn't afford to go to the urban communities and spaces? He emphasized transparency and accountability. Golden repeatedly raised concerns about pension funds being invested in private companies. One of my viewers called me yesterday while I was in Montego Bay and she was venting about the pension. And I had to be explaining to her that this government is robbing everything that was meant to set up and make people's lives better. Nothing is there for people again to benefit from. The government procurement issues, the Prime Minister didn't even seek to even comment on those things. Look at the procurement breaches right across the different ministries. The potential misuse of public resources. We've been seeing that. The lack of oversight. Anything goes under this administration. Hanky-panky, patty shop. Mothers and tasty and juicy. Them better than this government. This is a patty shop without rules nor regulations. Golden called out policy contradictions. For example, claiming tax cuts while government revenue continues rising. Promising wage growth while minimum wage increases remain small. Can you imagine $1,000? Golden focused on human and education development, emphasizing that Jamaica's future depends on education investment, teacher retention, and youth development. All of that was lacking in the Prime Minister's budget debate. Golden positioned the opposition as a government in waiting, and that was the aim. Because the opposition can't just look like an opposition, You have to look like a government in waiting. Instead of only criticizing, Golden presented policy alternatives. The digital economy expansion, stronger social protections, improved governance. And that tone, ladies and gentlemen, helped to present the People's National Party as not just an opposition and has a problem with everything that the government does, but to brand the People's National Party and the opposition as a government in waiting. And I appreciate that. Golden's presentation was widely viewed as disciplined, policy heavy, less theatrical. Let me say it again. Golden's budget presentation was considered disciplined, policy heavy, less theatrical, and this helped to strengthen his credibility as a prime ministerial alternative. I cannot say that the current prime minister was prime ministerial. It was full of theatrics, rhetorics, blame game, lacking substance, no clarity as to the way forward. It was atrocious. And I can end on this note with Mr. Golin by saying Mark Golin's budget presentation did what the government refused to do. It confronted the cost of living crisis and offered a vision for Jamaica's future. If you agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, if you agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, type power in the chat with some orange hearts. Type power in the chat with some orange hearts. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? So when labor rights nationwide, and I'm representing Mark Golin today, you know, he did well. While labor rights nationwide, the Jamaica Labour Party and other filthy sandwich eating affiliates continue to spew nonsense in our public discourses, while they continue to do all sort of foolishness but present important solutions for the people of this country that can give us the confidence that we will rise again after Melissa. The opposition outclassed the government. Julian Robinson's presentation was solid. He showed up the already known fact that Minister Favour Williams is unable to run the Ministry of Finance. And if that wasn't enough, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Golin came with class, like the classic Michael Manley, with boldness, wit. He was solution oriented. He painted the clear picture that the government is out of touch. So much so that he drew a very practical example of how even gas is, a litre of gas is less expensive than a litre of water. And the Prime Minister came not understanding the point, or he probably just intentionally tried to rebut something that the opposition leader showed to the public. He went for some waters, ladies and gentlemen. He's just so out of touch. He's just so out of touch. The opposition showed that they are the team with the plans, the vision. And as I will always say, without vision, the people will surely perish. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my take on the budget presentations. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with me. See you soon. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. This was a pre-recording. I hope you enjoyed the show. Stay blessed. Father, we give you thanks for your mercies. We give you thanks for your grace. We thank you for the viewers online today, and I pray, Lord, that you will bless them. We pray for our country. So much is happening, but we're looking to you, Lord, the author and the finisher of our faith. I pray for the government. I pray for the opposition, that they will come together and do what is right by this country, that sound plans and proposals will be taken into consideration, and that they will be implemented for the Jamaican people so that we can benefit, our children can be better off. God, I pray that you will rid this country of those who continue to bring the government and our nation into disrepute. We don't have to accept corruption. We don't have to accept failure. We are asking for you, Lord, to intervene as we look to you and tell you thanks. In Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Stay blessed.
The perspective live with Perry Cummings Jr. Big up yourself. The best is yet to come. This is my perspective, telling you my perspective. This is my perspective to bring change that I feel me objective.